Hi, and welcome to Something for the Weekend. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90, and I'm Artistic Director of Together 2012 that's bringing you this show today. We're based in East London in the main Paralympic host borough of Newham. We're led by disabled artists. With me in my studio, where she's been locked down since the beginning of March last year, is our chair, the artist and activist, Julie Newman. So we're going to come back to East London in a minute for some audio description. And as always, we're dressing up to go out to stay in. So we'll also be hearing what we're dressing up to stay out to go in to do. But first, at the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa are our West Midland hosts. So let's have some introductions, audio description, and tell us what you're dressing up to go out to stay in to do today.
So, I am Robin Surgener, also known as Angry Fish. I am Business Director at Together 2012. And yeah, we are up here in our nice, cozy Sutton Coldfield garden room. That's what it is this week. I have got silvery white hair. Slightly shorter than last week. I wound the button in on my tummy, pulled it in a bit. Sorry, that's a 70s toy, wasn't it? And I've got blue eyes behind no rimmed black armed glasses. I am wearing a grey hoodie, which in darker grey and red letters says Team GB and Tokyo. And I'm wearing this for an item I will talk about in something for the week ahead. And we are sat in front of our lovely theatre curtains.
Thank you. And I'm Tracy Surgener, and you can't see my hair today because I am wearing a purple hair wrap on my head. I've got pale skin, blue eyes, and I'm wearing a creamy, very fleecy, fluffy dressing gown. And
Oh, could you just turn that mic down a fraction, Robin?
I'm sorry.
And what are you dressed up to go out to stay in to do?
I am dressed up to go out to stay in to have a spa weekend.
That sounds great. Well, your theatre curtains are as close as we're going to get to live theatre for a while. So back in East London, in East London, we have two artists, and I should have introduced the most important person in the picture first, a small molting tabby cat. This is Jinx, also known as Dolly. She's one of a number of random pets that join us from time to time on the show. If you go to our website, www.together2012.org.uk, and click on the pull down menu under the main Together 2012 TV page, you'll find photographs and a little bit more information about all of the pets that you're likely to see on the show. I'm kind of hoping she'll go soon because the fur is getting all over the microphone, so it's only a matter of time before Julie starts coughing. But in the meantime, some audio description from us, and let's start from behind. So you can see a bit of our Together 2012 graffiti banner, which we produced all back in 2014 with the help of a company called Graffiti Life. You can see the full banner on the website, but it's covered in images of different activities that we cover over the course of the year and often the course of a week. So visual art, poetry, photography, filmmaking, dance, drama, street art, carnival art, live music, and much more. In front of the banner between us, we have our teddy bear waiting to compete. Well, we're waiting to compete in the Clockwork Paralympics in the second half of the show. And if we win, our teddy will get to wear a medal for the next week. So, more about that and a bit of audio description for the bear later. But I'm Ju Gosling. I've got a self styled hennaed corona crop, mercifully hidden under a hat knitted by the artist Alison Walker. Thank you again for the hats, Alison. It's great that they keep coming because, yes, I think a year of lockdown haircuts was quite enough, but there's no sign that it's safe for us to have the hairdresser in just yet. So that's a bright pink hat in different shades. It's a sort of cotton knitted beanie. I've got pale olive skin. I've got green eyes behind black plastic glasses. I've got black wrist braces, silver coloured jewellery, and I am wearing a bright pink t-shirt that says Superwoman, and it has a image on it of a woman from the developing world carrying a basket on her head with Superman, a sort of puny and railing inside it. And I am dressed up to go out to stay in to see the Gorilla Girls tomorrow night. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute when we've heard from Julie. You've been very patient. Do we want to have some introduction, audio description, and what you're dressed up to go out to stay in to do?
Thank you, Ju. I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I've dressed up today to go out to stay in with a black baseball cap with a rainbow flag on the top. I've got a black T-shirt and a rainbow flag across the chest. I have dark rimmed glasses. I have abundant hair, uncut, and it's actually quite strangely curly at the bottom, but not on top. Anyhow, I'm sure people would pay to have hair like mine. So that's my comforting thought for the day. I'm dressed up to go out because it's the end of June Pride. And it's also on the 28th, which is Monday, the anniversary of the Stonewall riots. So I'm going to head off to Greenwich Village in New York. Excuse me, cat hair, and just raise a glass and just be generally sociable in the Stonewall Inn.
Brilliant. And we have a highlights and links page where you'll find all of the details and poems, artwork, videos, and links from today. Again, that's on the pull down menu from the Together 2012 TV page on our website, www.together2012.org.uk. And we'll pop that link in for Christopher Street for anyone who doesn't know, or who'd like to know more about the origins of Pride Month. I'm going off tomorrow, well, in real life indeed, to attend an online event organised by the Gorilla Girls, who are over in the UK for a month from the States. And for once, the main piece of work they're doing is an online piece. It's a fantastic website that went live last Friday, and I was lucky enough to stumble across it just after it went live, and consequently easily booked a ticket for tomorrow. It's completely free. It's from 8 o'clock to 9:30, and it's a project called the Male Greys. So we'll pop those links in. But the Male Greys is looking at the way male artists have treated women over the centuries. I'm just going to pop a picture up on screen. So, for anybody who hasn't heard of the Gorilla Girls, they're a group of artists, completely anonymous. They all use the names of dead women artists, and they wear gorilla masks, although they actually spelt gorilla Guerilla. So this was us meeting them when they were last over in 2016. So there's me in my wheelchair with my assistant's dog talking to one of the Gorilla Girls, who, despite their best efforts to be friendly, my dog was just not having it at all. So I've got a number of photos of Julie's assistant's dog being absolutely adorable with the Gorilla Girls, but Jazz just, even when he got given treats, just shouted and shouted and shouted. I've been following the Gorilla Girls since I was a teenager, and 40 years later, very little has changed in the art world, which does seem to be quite shocking. But what the Gorilla Girls always do is deal with these issues and highlight these issues with a huge amount of humour. Everything they do is very, very funny. So I'm really looking forward to the Male Greys event tomorrow night. I'm going to put the link up in case there's still tickets left, because like I say, it's free. But the website, which we'll put into the links, is just absolutely fascinating, and I suspect also was stimulated a bit by the Me Too movement as well. If you look at some of the artists they've exposed in terms of bad behaviour today. So we'll hear more about what what you might dress up to go out to stay and to do later in the second half of the show in the week ahead. But now we're going to move on and have a look at some of the poems that have been written this week by the Together Pop Up Poetry Club. If you'd like to join the Pop Up Poetry Club, it's run by telephone on a Wednesday morning from 10:30 to 12. We pay you, put you on the group call. Well, we pay for the calls, we phone you, and we put you on the group call. And people get together, read out poems that they might have found elsewhere or that they've written. We have a discussion around a theme. We ring off and write on a theme, and then people come back to share their work. Well, I say we, I can't actually access the telephone. So Julie is the director who's there, also with Alison Marchant, our club's programme leader who runs the group, and usually Noel as well, our engagement support worker who's able to phone. And this week's theme was summer, wasn't it, Julie?
Yes, summertime.
Would you like to start with a poem?
Yes, this is from Alison, as Ju said, the group leader, and it's entitled It Was Late June. It was late June, and there was a rise in heat in the afternoon. Willow herb, meadow sweet, and grass. The blackbird sang over rich cowslips and chestnut flowers at summer's pace. Swallows chatter, brightness burns, dandelion clocks and the busy bee, ponderous with summer scents, poppies flicker from an open French window in the air of other summers.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Alison. What have you got for us next from the West Midlands?
I'll go first then. I've got one here from a Glory Sengo. This is simply entitled Summer. Summer is when you wear your sunglasses and you sit down in the garden and see the sun. The sun beams on your face and you go and swim in the sea and you put sun cream on your back.
Thank you, Glory. That brought back some lovely images of summer's past and I hope summer's future, though not this year. Tracy, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got one from Dawn Barber entitled Summer. The sun is out, everyone on a high. The flowers are in bloom, the butterflies are flying. Birds singing in the trees, people beaming with joy and feeling happy. I love the summer. I never want it to end. It is my special friend. My vitamin D that makes me feel happy. Sun, keep doing your special work and make us beam even more.
Oh, I really, really loved that. I'm just going to dive down and pick up one from Crystal Peasy. So this is called Summer. In the summertime, I like going to feed the birds. The sun is shining bright, so I go to the trees for shade. It's so hot, I eat ice cream and I put sun cream and my sunglasses on. We go outside to see the sun and get fresh air. All the leaves that come off the trees and fall on the floor, the days become longer and brighter. I go and visit my mum in the summer and I have ice cream with her. At night time, it's still very bright outside, and I go to sleep very happy. Again, thank you for Crystal. That just brings up so many images. What have you got for us next, Robin?
Oh, it's gone the wrong way on my list of poems here. So I have one from Duncan Bridgestock. This is called Escalator to Heaven. If I don't have wings, will I still go to heaven? But I would much prefer a double cheeseburger, bacon and gherkin with fries and side salad. But my idea of heaven is a whole street of jazz clubs, like New York's 52nd Street in the 1940s, populated by jazz greats. If you don't behave, you're going to get such a snack. What would you prefer, crisps or a Mars bar? My favourite sweets are Ravel's Boleros. Is it time for my nap?
I love Duncan's poems, not strictly speaking on the subject of summer, but I thought that was unmissable. And we've got some of Duncan's collages to look at in a little bit. Tracy, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got one from Taylor, and it's also called Summer Dreaming. Summer days, a hazy dream, blue skies burning light, pavement sizzling, birds singing, children cheering, sorry, children cheering, holidays nearing, ice cream dripping, seagulls sweeping, the crowd sweating, blurring, moving, looking for shade, sipping lemonade, waiting for the day to fade into evening, summer dreaming.
Thank you, Taylor Henville. We really love that. You know, it's just such a very summery. We're not having a very summery day in London today, but you'd never know it from those poems. And I think finally you've got one for us, Julie.
I do. Mine's called Summer Solstice. On the longest day, the stones stand tall against a marbled sky. The light of the first rays come through the clouds, and the henge starts to hum with birdsong echoing the calls of their forebears in days gone by. Skylarks sing their last for the year. With blackbirds and song thrushes they welcome the day and greet the wakening joy of dawn. Now we shall gather the fern seeds at midnight while lovers dream and walk through the gates between the worlds, invisible as we capture the magic of centuries, calling the sun to rise.
Thank you, Julie. So earlier in the week, in fact, no, let me move on to the next one. Sorry, Julie?
I forgot to say, and I should have said, the theme, the poetry theme for next week is a song that I like.
Brilliant. So if you'd like to join in from home, then the theme, as Julie said, is a song that I like. We'd love to see your poems if you're writing them at home. And if you are interested in joining the club, have a look on the website or drop us a line to info@together2012.org.uk. And now, going back earlier today to this morning's Art Club Still Life session. The Still Life session runs for an hour on Zoom, and it's replaced the in person activity we used to run for 2 hours. We only run our Zoom sessions for an hour because we think that's really as much as anybody can cope with. So, our previous in person session was drawing and painting, and the focus there was on us offering you a really big selection of materials to work with and experiment with and find your own voice. Obviously, we can't do that over the internet. So instead, we offer you a picture and a quiet space with, a sort of dose of mindfulness built in around the audio description and really thinking about the image, where you can draw or paint with whatever you happen to have at home. Everything is going to be suitable. So let me just get the first image up. And then I'm going to ask Robin to do some audio description.
Well, what we have here is a pair of brown pointy sandals, a dark brown, a kind of felty suede, actually, probably suede brown with ribbing and a little bow at the front, but open at the back with just a thin strap to go around the heel. And they're sort of joined to a handbag. There's a handbag on the floor with its chain, but it kind of looks like the shoes and the handbag are chained together. Again, and it's a black and brown furry handbag. I think a woolly handbag with silver clasps.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, Alison seems to have access to the most amazing collection of shoes and bags. So this one is by Crystal Peasy, and she's used purple paint for the shoes and yellow for the bag. This is by Sophia, who's used felt tips in maroon and brown. And this is by Lee Brooker. Lee has done his in black and purple coloured pencil. That's beautiful, Lee. Thank you. And earlier in the week, the art club met for its Make and Natter session. Again, that's an hour-long Zoom session from 11 to 12, this time on a Tuesday. And again, we're not able to send you materials. So what we focus on is being able to use things you already have at home, particularly recycling. What Alison does is come up with different activities that you can try at home, but you're also very, very welcome to just bring your own creative projects along. And it's the most sociable session that we run. Like I say, it's about making, nattering, showing each other what you're making and nattering about it. And people are just finishing up different projects at the moment, including collaging paper flowers and also continuing to make animals out of old toilet roll inners. So this is Ellen Goody. Ellen's been beginning to do a collage, and what she's done is drawn and coloured and cut out different shapes for that collage. This is Glory Sengo, and Glory's cutting out pictures, sticking them on white paper and then cutting them out again and putting them onto black card. This is Crystal Peasy with some of the animals that she's making by squeezing the top of toilet rolls together and then covering them in coloured paper. And this is Sophia, who's holding up, yes, I think it's 2 flowers made from cutting out and rolling paper. And if you'd like to know how to do that, you can find that in the Join In with Tracy pages. And I promised you we would also have a quick look at Duncan's latest collages. So I'm going to pop that up and get you to do a little bit of audio description. Robin, we've got 4 of them.
Okay, well, I can tell you what we have here is an orange background and a Cadbury's milk tray box chopped into lots of L shapes and placed to create a not really a maze, but a pattern kind of like that, very sort of digital in an analog way. Now this is a deeper contrast. So this has a red background and then a much deeper red card with some white writing on. And again, we're using right angles, but it's interesting because they're towards the middle, they all kind of rotate through 90 degrees to create a focal point in the middle. But then around the outside, each pair of right angles creates a square. And then there is 3 dots. Again, this time we have some white card and then a kind of purple or mauve and grey striped card. Again, it's kind of, for me, it's a bit like a barcode that's been chopped up and reorganized to confuse the shop buying, the machine in the shop and charge you less. And this one is a very deep blue. Again, Duncan sticking with his themes of right angles and circles, so almost as a juxtaposition between a right angle and a complete circle. So we have 8 right angle shapes creating 4 squares, and then with 3 circles up through the middle.
Thanks for that, Robin, and thanks for those, Duncan. Duncan's actually going to be exhibiting his collages with us as part of our 2021 Disability History Month Festival this November. And yeah, I think it's really interesting to see the way that Duncan's been sort of developing these collages and developing his style. Lots of what he's using is, I think, recycled card from things like pill packets as well as things from the kitchen. So yes, have scissors, have glue, have a pile of recycling. There's no end to what you can make. We're going to move on now and have a short film from our guest presenter, Stera Plurger. Stera is here with us most weeks, presenting an idea that's very easy to join in with at home. And we have, as with Tracy, a Join In with Stera page on our website. So you'll find the latest film on the pull down menu for Together 2012 TV under the highlights and links. But you can also go to the pull down menu on the Join In programme and see this with Join In with Stera. And I have a feeling that there's quite a lot in common between what Stera's going to show us, and then we have an activity coming up that Tracy's going to show us. So let me pop this first video up now.
Hi, I'm Stera, and I did a painting with my fingers of a tree. My fingers were all messy, disgusting. I don't want to do paintings, more paintings with my fingers, because you don't like getting messy. The tree painting with my fingers were disgusting, but the painting was beautiful. Bye.
Thank you, Stera. Just to give a bit of audio description there, it's not quite what I'd call finger painting, and I can really see where Stera was coming from, because she was actually making the trunk and the branches by painting the whole of her arm as far as the elbow and putting the whole arm down. But it was beautiful and very, very effective, just using brown paint on her arm and then green paint on her fingers to give the impression of the leaves. So thank you as always, Stera. And Tracy, what have you got for us?
Well, I was inspired watching Stera's videos over the last couple of weeks where she was doing different things with paint. So I thought, what can I do with paint? So we've
Shall
got
I-
some pictures, haven't we?
Yeah, I'll pop the first picture up and then you can talk us through it.
Yeah. So I just thought, what can I use? I've got paint, bit of cardboard to stop it going all over the table. And that's a bit of old wallpaper that I've got. I just sort of cut a couple of squares out of that. But for the main body of my painting, I use the bottom section of a fizzy drink because it looks a bit like a flower. With the paints, because I wanted to create runny paint, I just put a little bit of water in with the paint just to make sure it would flow. And then I simply put my flower shape in the middle of the paper and just tipped the paint over it. There's no right or wrong way, just whatever you think. You stop when you've got the amount you want. I just think trying to be creative. So I've gone for a red and I've added a bit of blue, a bit of yellow. I did a little bit of green as well. And then when that was done, I've got this sort of circle of mixed colours. I use the end of a paintbrush to just stretch it out a little bit. Did that, carried on and did that all the way around. It's quite interesting because I didn't know what I was going to end up with. But it did end up being rather nice. Quite liked it.
Thank you, Tracy. I think that was the final photo that I had up on the list. So,
Nice.
yeah, that looked fascinating.
It just creates this sort of, dream-like picture. It's quite, what's the word? Sort of,
Psychedelic.
yeah, psychedelic would be good, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Obviously,
it's cool.
it's because it's quite runny, you need to leave it to dry before you try standing it up, otherwise it will just drip.
And
But
did you
yeah,
take the plastic off before you dried it, or just the
I
plastic?
did. Yeah, I removed the plastic. I think I must have forgot to send that picture. I removed the plastic from the middle, and then as I did, the paint then drew itself together to fill that space. Yeah, and it just looked really cool. I was very impressed with myself.
Fascinating. Well, we'll pop that final picture up afterwards. Julie.
I have to say, I'm sorry, I've been bobbing up and down here because I got very excited. It looks like a chicken. The way that
Ah,
it looks like the feet, the claws of the chicken, and then it's got its wings back and its head
mm,
down. I just think it's wonderful. I
yeah,
loved it. Yeah,
yeah.
well done. And was it psychedelic or was it
Yeah, I think psychedelic.
or was
Yeah.
it cathartic? I think it was also a bit cathartic, wasn't it?
Mm, yeah. And then for that one, I used the bottom of a Coke bottle. But if I'd used a bigger bottle, maybe a lemonade bottle that's got a wider circumference, then it might have come out with a totally different picture.
Yeah,
So,
and it's certainly very easy to just take the scissors to any kind of plastic bottle these days. They're so thin, and just cut them off to, use whatever. I use the bottle tops quite often as paint palettes. So there's a
mm,
number of simple painting activities within both the Join In with Stara and the Join In with Tracy films. And I think you're right. Some of the ones that come out most abstract can also really look like something.
mm,
But there's
mm,
also ways that both Stara and Tracy have demonstrated where, using very, very simple techniques, you can still, as Stara showed you, create things like trees. So we've reached the middle of our show, and it's time, as always, for the weekly Clockwork Paralympics. We've been running the Clockwork Paralympics since last March 2020. Always looking forward to the Tokyo Paralympics, but as yet, still not 100% certain that we'll get there. And we support the Bear Hunt, which is based on Michael Rosen's Bear Hunt book. So, what people have been doing since COVID and possibly before, I'm not entirely sure, is putting teddy bears in their windows and putting teddy bears on their live streams. And then young people who are taking part in the Bear Hunt has found another bear. So, with that in mind, I'm going to introduce our bear before Robin's bear, because Robin's bears have been wearing medals for weeks to come, and ours is getting a little bit fed up. So, this is Tanny. Tanny joined us in May as a birthday present, and Tanny is already dressed in an outfit for sport. So she has a little red sweatband, she has red and white shoes, and she has a blue and white striped top. Unfortunately, she comes with her own medal, and she's holding a rainbow flag, partly to support the Hungary, well, partly to support the kind of protest around the UEFA football and the Rainbow Stadium, and partly just because it's Pride Month. So, who is hoping to be the medal wearer for Birmingham 2022?
Well, this is going to be Bo, and she is a very kind of light honey coloured teddy, also wearing a pink sweatshirt. She's going to be representing Birmingham today. And I'm going to say now that we're going to choose the left side of the screen as we look, because we want it all to be very fair.
So, in the Clockwork Paralympics, we race clockwork toys and see which gets to the end first. This, I've discovered over the months, is quite a frustrating process, because quite often neither of them get to the end. But we have few competitors that we can rely on more than most. And at the moment, we're in the pool in honour of Robin's Paralympic medals. So, in this case, it's clockwork crabs in the walk-in bath. If you'd like to join in from home, as Robin says, just pick a side of the screen before we start the video. And as always, we'll get Robin to tell us who's won.
So here we are at the Olympic baths, ready to go. We're Commonwealth. Birmingham is on the left side of the screen, London on the right side of the screen as you look at it. Oh, an exciting race ahead of us, and amazing. Look at this, London. Oh, now. Oh. Okay. I actually thought London were going to take the title then, but at the last moment, Birmingham zoomed through. I'm deeply sorry because I had actually chosen that side, having won the last few weeks from the other side, and I thought, well, okay, maybe there's a reason. So I went that side, and obviously fate is shining on us. So I'm going to present Bo with this is a medal from the CP World Championships of 1986. I am really that old. Well done, Bo.
I think all of us are that old. I mean, when we were doing our previous live stream, we had a young person, but of course they've gone back to university now. But yes, I think you're just very good at winning, Robin, which is why you've got so many medals. The rest of us could all do with learning. So now we're going to look at the week ahead and see what's coming up online, mostly for free, that we would like to recommend. And I'd like to start in the West Midlands by let's hear a bit more about what you're dressed up to go out to stay in to do, Robin.
Okay, well, actually, I mean, I'm afraid it isn't free. But when we did our show on a regular basis, we had gaming as part of it, and we've actually not talked about gaming since we moved to the 1 day a week. So, I thought to bring that up, is we've just seen the release of the Tokyo Olympics game, uh, and it's absolutely fascinating. Joshua, who is obviously the resident gaming expert, and I've been second many times already, um, has bought it for his Xbox. But it is available across the platforms of PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, PC, and something I'd never heard of before called Stadia, which may be I think it's a purely online version. I think. Anyway, and it is. I think it varies between 29.99 and £35. But actually, the thousands of hours you can get from it, it's not that. It just seems a lot when you've got to buy it. But it is really good. And it's got all the sports. I mean, Josh and I so far have concentrated on the 100 freestyle and the 100-meter running. And as I say, I've been second a lot. Um, but it's quite interesting because
Fast when there's two of you, Robin.
no, the computer takes part as well. But it's really interesting because it's kind of like previous games. It's all about kind of looking like the athletes that you expect to see. There was actually the characters in this are a little bit new, a little bit more sort of nuanced and odd. Um, and kind of various different shapes. A majority of the events are mixed gender as well, so you can choose which you want to be. But you could also do it dressed in a spacesuit or a rabbit or a Sonic the Hedgehog as well, without apparently impairing your performance. So it's just fun. I mean, and the graphics are really good. I mean, it's really really easy to see. And in the two events I've done, you only need you don't have yes, you do have to use fingers or thumbs to do stuff, but it's not like when you've got to press A plus B plus this or C and F and down and round. It's kind of like push, 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 squeeze kind of stuff. I mean, when you get to rugby, it might be more complicated, but
Well, I think we'll leave it there, but we get the general idea. And yes, that does actually sound excellent. And we talked quite a lot about the accessibility of the Xbox. So I'm presuming that if you buy the Xbox version, you can pretty much play it any which way you want. Are you recommending any particular kind of spa weekend, Tracy, as you're dressed up for a spa weekend, or is it just DIY?
Oh, it's going to be a DIY. I've got it all lined up. Nails, face mask,
I
bit of
think
honey on the hair.
I think it's essential. When we first were locked down all those months ago, we said Sundays are going to be spa Sundays, and it doesn't always work out like that. And quite often it's the dogs that need to take priority. But yeah, that sort of sense of you're going to do your nails and you're going to do your hair just because you're not going out, it really doesn't matter. So, Julie, what do you recommend to go for the week ahead?
I've got a few things. I'll start off with the list again. I think it's a very, very good listing app. Well, it's not an app, it's a website. But you can actually do things like you can stream. No, you can. Sorry, I'm very distracted. You can find films to stream. They've got a schedule of what films are are showing this weekend. But they've also, I like the idea they do things all over the UK. So there's always something very good coming down from Scotland. And this weekend they've got a jazz festival, and there's a historic boat festival in Aberdeen. So it's really interesting.
Yes, I mean, I think if you've got the time, it's really worth going through some of these things. I get most of these listings off Eventbrite, although I look at other things. And the first thing I'm going to recommend is in America, actually, but because it's an afternoon event, it's still 7 o'clock here. And it's a poetry reading remembering Lucille Clifton. And Lucille Clifton was a very, very famous African American poet. And she also wrote a memoir and more than 16 children's books, which was, again, specifically targeted at African American children. So that looks like a great event. There is a booking link, but there's also a direct web Zoom link, which is much appreciated. So I'm going to put both of those into the links. What's your next recommendation, Robin?
I mean, actually, strangely enough, it's coming from Scotland, and I this one, you know, we are an art show. We're all about being out there and flamboyant and demonstrative of our personal idiosyncrasies, our strangenesses, and it is the Glasgow Festival of Burlesque. But within that, I mean, there are, again, there's a quite an extensive website of various things. But there was an online event, and it costs only between £3 and £5, called the Midweek Fling, which it's on Wednesdays. Wednesday the 7th, and then the 22nd at 8 o'clock, but it is online. And it will be bringing you, I guess, the best of burlesque, from, not dressing up very much to to some, almost, kind of clowny, circusy outfits, and all the things that go into burlesque, which is all about kind of having fun, using theatre skills to mock ourselves, I think would be the best description.
Well, if you get a chance to go yourself, Robin, I should be very interested to know how you get on. I'm going to stick a video on next for something that's coming up on Monday, organised by our associate drama company, Act Up Newham, of which, of course, Stera Plurger is a member, and Hannah Facey, who facilitated that video, leads as company manager. And this production is taking place on Monday on Zoom as part of Newham Word Festival.
Lucy's going through a rough time.
She's full of mixed emotions in lockdown.
Will Lucy be happy again? A doodle journey inside Lucy's mind.
Mom,
28th of June
at 7 p.m.
on Zoom.
So that really will be unmissable. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also, as part of the Word Festival on Thursday, we have our pop-up poetry cafe. We've got live captions from Global Real-Time Captioning, who also caption this live stream. We have BSL interpretation. We have participants from this week's Sign Poetry Workshop, which we organised also as part of Newham Word Festival. So that's from 7 to 8 p.m. on Zoom next week. You need to drop us a line for the link, info@together2012.org.uk, or I'll put some alternative methods up under highlights and links. Julie, what did you have for us next?
There's an online exhibition at the Van Gogh Museum in the Netherlands. And I just found it by accident, and I was thrilled because they've categorized Van Gogh's paintings. And I started looking at landscape ones, and I just got lost in them.
Yes, I mean, we forget how many very famous disabled artists there's been over the years. I remember visiting the Van Gogh Museum in 1990, and it was just mind blowing. So it's great to know there's an online offer. There's just time for a couple of quick more. Have you got anything for us from the West Midlands?
Yeah, I've got another one, still on the theme of art. And it's, I think we talked about this a few shows ago about the Great British Photography Challenge. I think some of you had watched it. The whole series is available on iPlayer. If you haven't watched it, I think it's a good watch. But my recommendation was that actually the winning, don't want to give too much away for those who haven't watched. I'll just say it. There are two winners, and the two winners have actually got their own exhibitions, which is going to be online. And I think I had a look, and it looks really interesting. So if you get a chance, that'd be a good thing to watch. If you want to know from the beginning and work out who you think is going to win, watch the whole series.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. I didn't realize the exhibitions were up, and I found it fascinating, the whole series, because you learn, I think wherever you are in your photography journey, you are always going to learn from something that's led by Rankin, who's such a great British photographer. And again, I think I think it was all very nuanced. And, one of the people in particular is very much somebody who was talking about their mental health and their well-being and the part that the photography played. But just generally, as I've said before, I spend more time on iPlayer than any of my subscription channels. So, if you've only got iPlayer, don't despair. They definitely have the best programs. Who else wants to jump in? We've just got a couple of minutes. Julie.
Dublin Pride online tomorrow. It's completely virtual. It starts at 12. I'm really looking forward to it because it means quite a lot, I think, to not just people in Dublin, but the whole of Ireland.
Yeah, I think what's happened with LGBTQI plus rights in Ireland over the last decade has just been extraordinary, particularly when you see the pushback with other Catholic countries. Anything else from the West Midlands?
I'm afraid I have to say football. We do have to.
We'll move on then.
No, come on. There is just unfortunately Scotland didn't make it through, but England and Wales have made it through to the knockout stages of Euro 2020. So we will wish them luck.
Of course, we'll wish them luck because they always need it. That's for sure. I'll just throw in one more for anybody who is interested in dance. And I know quite a lot of people who dance also teach. There's a industry-wide symposium on Tuesday morning and completely free from 10 to 1:45, and it's about improving racial equality racial equity, as they so quaintly put it. But I think a very overdue look at how the dance teaching world operates, because if you're not teaching inclusively, you're not producing diverse dancers later on. So that looks like a very, very welcome and long overdue session. We work in every field of the arts, and it has to be said that when I, as an individual artist, go out into the dance world, yeah, it's certainly far, far, far more discriminatory than anywhere else I operate. So it's wonderful to see that they're taking that on board and doing something about it. So we'll have all of those activities, poems, videos, recommendations, and more up by 6 o'clock on our highlights and links page. The recorded program goes up online on a Friday night about 8 o'clock and stays there. You can also find Stara and Tracy's activities in the pull down join in from home menu, where indeed there is a lot more join in from home activities as well. Robin, would you like to well, let me ask Julie as our chair and the eldest and the boss. Would you like to say a final few words?
Yes, I think definitely have a good weekend, whatever you're doing.
All week.
or week indeed, because it is the week ahead. But yeah, I hope it's a good one for you, and I hope you rest. The weather's going to be a bit grim over the weekend, so I would stay in and watch films or football, indeed, or indeed the tennis, the cricket.
Yes. Or you could join in from home with some of our art activities, which I think is what Tracy and I will be doing while the other two are watching sport. So it's goodbye from East London. You're very, very welcome to join any of our activities. Just drop us a line. All of the information is available on the website www.together2012.org.uk. Robin, would you like to introduce the final item and, of course, say goodbyes from the West Midlands?
Goodbye from me.
And before I say goodbye, I will introduce the film for today. We've been lucky enough to get an interview with Alan Sutherland. Alan is himself, I think, pretty much a legend of the disability arts world. He's a writer and I think comic, really, of some great note, or certainly comedic writer of scripts and poetry. And he's here really this week to tell us about a book that he has put together called Electric Bodies.
Brilliant. And just before I play that as our and finally spot, I should also say, of course, Alan's a fantastic expert on disability film. So look out for that as well. And see you all, I hope, next week.
So today I am talking with Alan Sutherland, well-known disability arts writer and historian, I guess.
I've discovered you get old enough, you turn into a historian just because you can remember all the stuff that young people want to know about.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel a bit like that myself. So, as I say, we're talking with Alan Sutherland. You've got a new book coming out.
Yeah, well, the book is this one. It's called Electric Bodies: Travels in Life History. It's from Electric Bodies, which is a project that's been going on as a subsection of D4D, which is a larger academic research project about disability and community. And as part of that, I've been working with Disability Arts Online. I've done a number of cycles of transcription poetry with various leading figures of the disability arts movement, yourself included, and that's produced a set of cycles of doing this process. It has lots of outcomes because it works from oral history interviews. So the first thing is we get a set of interviews with leading disabled artists, which then go on record, and then they're then in a library and available for researchers to look at. And for each person I interview, we get like a cycle of poems in which each poem is like a scene in a play. It's like telling a life story. And from those one can bring out different selections. I've edited them down to do reading versions of different lengths according to what people want, or I've pulled out sort of thematic selections from across the different sets of poems that we've used for some really good animations that I've done with Colin.
Wow.
Colin Hambrook. And all of that can be found on the D4D website. And I would encourage people, if they like the two poems that I'll read later today, or if they like what's in the book, to look further and find the larger cycles of poems.
You said you've chosen, you picked some disability artists of note. So who and how did you choose them?
That's Matt Fraser, Catherine Ariella, Julie McNamara, Tony Heaton, Jess Tom, Robin Surgener, Vicky Rayford Sinnott, and Colin Hambrook. All of whom were people who I thought were people of importance, whose work needs to be recorded, go down in history. because this is partly an oral history project.
Yeah.
And also people I thought would be interesting to interview.
Well, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the interview process. Would you just like to tell our viewers kind of what that oral history process entailed?
With each person, I've done a long interview over 2-3 sessions, basically a life history interview in most cases. Then I've transcribed the recordings and edited those into sets of poems, which is something I've been working at for a while now as a process, and turns out to be a really productive one. It's very interesting how the individual person's voice survives that process. That was the first time we did a set of these, which was with Nancy Willis some years ago. That was the thing that Colin Hambrook and I both noticed. Display Arts Online had been kind of the publisher of this work, and that wasn't something we were necessarily expecting, that the individual voice would come through that strongly, but it really does. Even when I do live readings, still the voice of the person who's been interviewed is really strongly there.
I mean, I'd agree. Having been part of that process and then read the almost like a biography in prose, you know, it was fascinating actually feeling like I was hearing myself. So I think, again, for viewers, if you are interested in how this has worked, and to learn lots more about some of the disability artists that have gone before now, obviously I'm still here. It's a really fascinating read, and one that you can pick up and put down at leisure as well. I think it's very good that you can go in and out of it.
Yeah, things work as individual poems, but also when you read the whole set of them, it's a narrative, it's a story. I mean, my background is primarily in script writing, and that's the skill that I'm bringing to this. It's not the skills of lyric poetry so much.
I think that comes through, actually. I think that's a really interesting point to make.
Comedy writing in particular is because comedy is it's all about stress and pacing and where you put the pauses and all of that stuff.
So the book is being launched on the 8th of July, and it's going to be an online event. The details we will put onto the website. But Alan, I'd really like to finish this interview with a couple of poems from the book. So if I can pass over to you to read those to us, please.
Yeah. I've picked out a couple of poems that aren't so much about people's lives. A lot of the stuff in these sequences is about what people's lives, what their creative journey has been, if you like. But there are a few poems that are a bit angrier, if you like, a bit more in your face, that appeal to my character particularly. So I picked out a couple of those because they work particularly well as poems to be read in isolation. Some of the poems you kind of need to read the one before and the one after to really get the flow of it. These stand on their own, and they're both very much about disability arts and what we're all about. The first one is from the words of Tony Heaton, and it's called Wall of Power. People might say, well, it's not interesting enough. It's not important enough. If it was important, then people would have heard about it. But I don't agree. I think it is important. I think it's really interesting. They just don't get it. I think we've educated the subtle, the white middle classes to not express that prejudice in open court. But I think they probably still think it, a lot of them. They just know they can't say it anymore. So we're still fighting that wall of power and rank that don't want us in there. Because they instinctively know that it means one of their kind has to give up their seat at the table. and they can't hack that at all. And the second one is from the words of Jess Tom, otherwise known as Tourette's hero, and it's called Working Conditions. Why do we go to theatre and expect not to sit next to a learning disabled person? Why are people with conditions like Tourette's having to make shows to occupy space or to have to actively advocate for their inclusion in these spaces? One of the things that frustrates me is that companies say that not all directors are into doing relaxed performance. Well, you get to make the work you do, but you don't get to say who sees it. If you're not prepared to do relaxed performance, then list who you don't want in your audience. Tell me who you don't want. I think that that is the difficult thing about the exclusion of disabled people, because there's this perception that for so long the idea was that you gave access as a charitable act, as a gift. It was a nice bonus that you did for people, rather than the right of everybody to be able to access our shared cultural space. We're chipping away at that, but it definitely hasn't been smashed to pieces yet.
Alan, thank you ever so much. And we will get the links onto the website.
Brilliant. Take care, Robin.